Hi, I just wanted to show you something quick. So I'm just washing my hair and listening to something. I've always liked Russell Brand. Some people don't like Russell Brand, but because he's different and he's outspoken, I've always liked him. I've just come across one of his chats on November the 7th, 2017, entitled the Russell Brand Show. Hi, Sleeping Warrior. You're going to like this one if you've not listened to it. I was going to send it you. Science versus God. Is there a life force that transcends matter? Let's just listen to a little bit of it. I'd like you to go and listen to it if you want to, because I might have a chat about it later or another day. But I'm just going to show you a little bit of this, with everything that's going on at the minute. So I'll just switch round and show you. So here it is. And let's just listen a minute.
The basic model of mainstream science is a materialistic one. That matter is not conscious, and consciousness is at some point in a way that we don't understand.
Just let me take it back a little bit.
Matter.
Show you who this guy is. He's having an interview with.
Out now. I'm holding a copy of it in my hands. I'm looking at Rupert Sheldrake, we've been in the studio a matter of minutes. You've challenged the setup of the studio
Roots,
in many ways, the positioning of the microphone, the positioning of the camera. It seems to me that you're a man who continually flies in the face of convention. Have you always been like this, Rupert?
He is the man, Roots. I've just come across him.
Completely, no.
Funny how things start linking.
Had a kind of contrarian streak, I suppose.
How was your early experience, your early professional life?
Always loved Russell.
Conventional academia, is that right? You were like a Oxford researcher or Don?
No, I was a Don at Cambridge. I did a PhD at Cambridge and I was a Don there, yes.
And I suppose, a conventional biologist.
Well, I was doing unconventional science under the guise of a conventional academic appointment as a research fellow. So I was actually, when I was at Cambridge, I was trying to see how we could expand the frontiers of biology, go beyond the framework of thinking. But at that stage, I hadn't published my ideas on morphic resonance, and what I did was relatively within the...
So let's just go back. So he was trying to go against, those places.
Where they talk about the
Russell Brand channel.
Brahman, prana,
listen to this.
The idea that there are essential non-mechanical energies. Now, is this connected to your idea of morphic resonance? How does it relate
about France as well?
What do you
and
mean
the cathedral.
What do you mean by non-mechanical energy? Even though it wasn't you that said that, it was me.
Well, morphic resonance is the idea that...
Hang on, let me shove it up a bit.
You see, contemporary science, one of the dogmas...
Yeah, he was banned on TED Talk, it says on here, Roots. Wonder why.
Is the idea that nature is governed by fixed laws.
Bringing it back.
The idea was in the 17th century, God is the maker and ruler of the universe. And God is eternal, so God's laws are eternal.
Yeah.
And then the idea was that everything in nature had to follow these laws because God is omnipotent, so God was the universal law enforcement agency. That was the metaphor.
Yes.
So it was a theological conception, and they didn't have the idea of evolution then. And it's a very anthropocentric metaphor, the idea of the universe, that nature is governed by laws. I mean, only humans have laws.
Yes.
So when you think about it, it's not a very appropriate metaphor to start with.
No. There are just patterns. And I like this idea of metaphor, and it's the fact that we are necessarily dealing with metaphor when we're dealing with science. Even the mechanistic model was contrived at a time when industry and mechanization was happening in human culture.
So he talks about France.
So it would have been an attractive model, an accessible model. When mechanization was happening socially, humans are a bit like a machine, nature's a bit like a machine. That was in the language, it was in the ether. It became an appropriate metaphor for understanding. Is that correct?
It is, yes. So he thought of nature as a kind of mechanical system made up of unconscious matter based on forces that work by pushing and pulling, mechanical forces. And the idea that the laws are fixed at the beginning, it made sense when they thought the universe didn't basically change. But when the idea of evolution came along, first in biology with Darwin in 1859, but then with the Big Bang theory in the whole of nature, as late as 1966, we got a radically evolutionary cosmology. If everything's evolving, then why not the laws of nature? And in fact, laws of nature, as I've said, isn't a very good metaphor. Why not habits? Why can't the universe have regularities that are habits? And then there's a kind of memory in nature that sustains them, instead of some kind of external transcendent mind with fixed laws in it, which is the eternal God idea. I've nothing against God, but I've got a lot against the idea of God making laws of nature that are totally fixed.
Yes, it's almost like the requirement for fixed laws is a requirement in order to conduct
We have
study.
fixed
If there are
laws.
no fixed laws, it's impossible to conduct study. So you need fixed laws. There must be fixed laws. But in a way, it doesn't make sense. If you're moving through limitless space, which is continually evolving, it's more likely that there are patterns that seem like laws when observed from a particular perspective, but are going to be subject to the continual evolution and
Not
change
laws.
that all other phenomena appear to be subjected to.
Absolutely, it puts it very well. And you see, things that have been going on a very long time, like the crystallization of salt or the formation of hydrogen atoms, are such deep
Trying to find the
habits,
other
they
bit.
behave
Where
as
is
if
it?
they're changeless. Disputed the evidence. The disputation is about how you interpret it. And most people thought at the time, well, this just shows some weird effect that we don't fully understand, so let's forget about it. I think the evidence for morphic resonance, you see, there's a lot of phenomena already there that people agree about fit with morphic resonance. For example, IQ scores have gone up more than 30% since
Trying to
IQ
find a
tests
bit
were
about
invented in
France.
ask you, what is your view of the world? so I really want to. So I explain
Yeah,
this,
telepathy,
and
definitely.
the general response I got from Indian friends, colleagues, and even strangers was, well, there is nothing new in this idea. Ancient rishis have said this thousands of years ago.
Trying to
How is
find it. Where is
termed?
it?
How is that Vedically understood? The idea that there is a memory in nature.
Definitely
well,
a
it's basically
memory.
part of the philosophy of karma, which, in its limited form, is about.
Where's the France
real
bit?
and identifiable evidence, isn't it?
Well, I mean, not in principle. I mean, you can.
Vedic philosophy, where they talk about the idea of Brahman, prana, atma, the idea that there are essential non-mechanical energies. Now, is this what is this connected to your idea of morphic resonance? How does it relate to it when you talk about, well, what do you mean by morphic resonance? What do you mean by non-mechanical energy? Even though it wasn't you that said that, it was me.
Well, morphic resonance is the idea that there's a kind of memory in nature.
Right, hang on.
See, contemporary
I don't know where
science
it
was
is.
second all around the world, and then it went up again. And the alternative is absolutely mind-boggling. The mind-boggle factor free is just we're used to it. That's right, you're quite right. That to suggest there are objective laws that exist.
Yeah, Akashic Records, yeah.
And as you've said
We talked
already,
about... I'm trying to find the bit where he said about
what is your
France.
salary? They ask you, what is your...
Here, across cases, across continents.
Try and find one about
17th
France.
century,
Yeah.
God is the maker and ruler of the universe. And God is eternal, so God's laws are eternal.
No.
Fixed law. Right. Science is meant to be empirical, and which means based on...
Talked about the cathedral.
These are the kinds... So when I do the tests, then with the dogs, then it involves filming the dog, the place the dog waits, having people...
Yeah, they're trying to say that dogs, it's random that dogs know when their owners are coming home. Of course they do.
To do with religion in Russia, a bit like the Red Guards
Here it is.
in China. And so atheism was essentially political in the 19th century and for much of the 20th century. And many people who were atheists wanted materialist science to back up their views because it meant they could reject organized religion, particularly Christianity, in favor of other ideologies. So it was a necessary tool in challenging hegemony. That religion and the idea of God and man's relationship with God was tied up in power structures. Those power structures were corrupt and oppressive, needed to be overthrown. I mean, no one's saying the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution were bad things, necessary revolutions. But in order to underwrite those revolutions, you had to attack the idea of God, which was the mainstay
of the hegemony, or the sort of the basis of that power. Now, earlier you mentioned this idea within biology of vitalism, that in 100 years ago in biology, the idea that there was a sort of a super mechanical component, an element that couldn't be tracked, was present. I'm learning much about Vedic philosophy, where they talk about the idea of Brahman, prana, atma, the idea that there are essential non-mechanical.
I think I've missed it again. Hang on.
In 17
materialism so rigorously defended and alternative views so vehemently opposed?
Well, it's kind of political. Originally, it was political. In the 19th century, beginning of the 19th century, materialism was quite a small minority view. Within biology, a lot of people were vitalists. They thought there was a life force or some life principle. It wasn't just matter. Organisms weren't just machines. But the materialists wanted to believe that because they wanted a universe that's just matter.
The materialists.
Such a universe would have no God in it.
Why did they want that?
Because, particularly in France, where atheism got going in a big way, much more than in England, the old regime that was overthrown in the French Revolution was very closely allied with the Church, the Roman Church.
Yes.
And they thought that to get rid of the king, you got to get rid of the church too. And the best way to get rid of the power of the church was to say God doesn't exist. So the whole thing's a ridiculous sham and pretense. So in the French Revolution in 1793, they abolished the Catholic Church in France. They closed the monasteries. They guillotined tens of thousands of priests. And they proclaimed the cult of reason as the state religion. Notre Dame Cathedral was turned into a temple of reason. Now, in Russia, you had a similar massive growth of atheism in the late 19th century. The Bolsheviks, whose revolution occurred almost 100 years ago, 1917.
1917.
Wanted to get rid of religion because they thought religion supported the Tsar and the state, and they wanted to destroy this religious underpinning. So science was an ally for them in this militant atheism. And in Russia in the 1930s, they had about 5 million people belong to an organization called the League of the Militant Godless that went round
a bit like terrifying.
Terrifying, bit like
we are the League of the Militant Godless. Don't mess with them guys.
They went round trying to stamp out everything to do with religion in Russia, a bit like the Red Guards in China. And so atheism was essentially political in the 19th century and for much of the 20th century. And many people who were atheists wanted materialist science to back up their views because it meant they could reject organized religion, particularly Christianity, in favor of other ideologies.
So it was a necessary tool in challenging hegemony, that religion and the idea of God and man's relationship with God was tied up in power structures. Those power structures were corrupt.
So, please watch it. I've not got to the end of it, but, you know, all the stuff that's going on, and just mentioning France there, and the French Revolution, you know, and Notre Dame and all that sort of stuff, and the apostolesses and whatever they're called, they had the heads chopped off, didn't they? The statues that they actually took out before, because if you watch, I'll probably show you a video after you can all watch about why those statues were actually taken out, and yes, it's to do with Q as well, which is good. And also, what else was there I've seen? Yeah, he was really good and he got banned off TED Talks. I wonder why, because they don't want him talking. He went to university but was going against the things that they said. There was something else I've seen and then I can't think what it was. But yeah, I've always liked Russell Brand. He talks out. He's into spiritualism and stuff like that. Funny how they're talking about France, Revolution, the cathedral. That was in 2017. And all that stuff. And why they wanted to take, I'll say, source away from us, because it was the people who were into the materialism. So if you want to check that out, that was Russell Brand's channel on Science versus God. Because a lot of people are having problems at the minute going on about scientists, you know, the mainstream media scientists that are not telling you the truth, who don't work with spiritualism, I should say the spirit side sort of thing, if you get what I'm saying. I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, go and check that out. It's really good. Doesn't matter if you don't like Russell Brand. I've always liked him because he's always gone against, stuff, which is what a lot of us are doing. And there was something else I wanted to add with that. Oh, I might be on with Roxanne tonight, but this chat that Russell's doing, I'll have to put something together because I'm sort of looking into the Harry and William thing at the minute of what I believe some people were saying about them, which I believe is actually not what's been fear-mongering again about, at least Harry anyway, Diana, Harry and William, not Charles and the rest of them. But I'll have to sort of explain that. Maybe, I don't know when I'll do it, but I will explain that. It's a very interesting interview. Like I said, I wake up and I come across the ones that speak to me, and I've always liked Russell Brand. Everyone, even my dad used to say, "Oh, I don't like him." I went, "Yeah, but actually listen to him. He makes sense." But that interview on the 7th of November 2017 is brilliant. And that guy went to university and is going against what they say. They're their sort of typical science. So he's a good guy, and that's why I'm saying you can get people who are a bit more upper class, who are good, not bad, who want to help. So yeah, check it out. I just want to say that, check it out, because it's a really good interview. I'm glad Roots has just mentioned that in there about, talks about the ether and all that. Coming across the same sort of people, we're linking up to the same sort of things because we're on the same wavelength and we know what's going on.